The Ottoman Empire lasted 600 years. They were able administrators and imposed peace using overwhelming force. They were a structure that imposed order upon chaos. We, the West, need to impose order upon chaos in the Middle East, but not by using our army to invade the region and impose order, because 15 minutes after we leave, war, misery, and chaos will begin again and continue to spread across the globe. We cannot stay there. It's too expensive, our supply lines are too long, and the cultural distance too great. We need a new Ottoman Empire to impose peace, but Turkey has neither the will nor the means to do so. The Persian Empire was able to impose peace and order upon chaos, and could do so again. Why choose Iran as a proxy force for the West? Aren't they our enemies? Iran is a dictatorship of the mullahs, with the reformists and the militarists both fighting for power, while the mullahs play them off of each other in order to stay on top. The nation is Persian, Shiite, not Arab. Now, like the Protestants and Catholics 600 years ago, the Shiite and the Sunni factions have been battling, but their war has lasted 1,400 years and is the root of the chaos that poisons this region. But it is not the only factor. This chaos, this continuous war without end, will not end until one side wins. The current conflict is a choice, in essence, between Shiite, the minority Shiite, and the more numerous Sunni. Iran wants to dominate the region and become the great empire again because they are hegemonic, messianic, and authoritarian. They would like to rule the world, but doesn't everybody? They will lie, cheat, steal, kill, do whatever it takes to win, but they will not kill half the planet to rule over the other half, nor will they commit suicide to get what they want. They are rational actors. They can be reasoned with. They are motivated by the will to power, but they do not seek death for the sake of death. Also, and this is very important, the younger generation, Persians in Iran, is Western-oriented and progressive. This society is evolving quickly. Now, the dominant Sunni ideology that is waging war on the West is different in very important ways. They want the same things, but they are willing to kill half the people in the world to rule over the other half. They are not rational actors. They cannot be reasoned with, will not keep their agreements. They are death-seeking because they have nothing to offer the world, and their ideology has nothing to offer them but death. It is a death cult populated by people who feel they have nothing to lose. These people have nothing to lose because life holds no promise for them. They are history's losers who are trying to leverage that hopelessness of the population into becoming winners by committing 1,000,000 atrocities. If they commit enough massacres and atrocities and wear down and bankrupt the West, they know they can win. Their strategy is winning. One of the keys to victory for the West is to use a proxy force in the region to impose order upon chaos, and Iran is the key. How might this work? Using Iran and the Shia to dominate the Sunni extremists. Remember, this is the same basic methodology used by the British in Iraq 100 years ago. They were trying to administer a chaotic nation with very few forces, a chaotic nation that was happiest when they were engaged in fighting and killing each other. There were multiple genocides going on in the region almost at the same time, and the British were underforced. The British used the Shiite minority to control the Sunni majority in Iraq, and it worked well for what it was designed to do. And we have seen what happened when this framework was broken in 2006. A civil war, ethnic cleansing, genocide, and never-ending war in the region. The Iranians are already fighting across the region for domination. They are already fighting to subdue the Sunni extremists. So we do not need to train them. We do not need to motivate them, bribe them, cajole them, force them to fight. This is their fight. All we have to do is to agree secretly to sell weapons that will give them a permanent advantage on the battlefield to make up for their numerical disadvantage in numbers. It is important to explain that this is not an empire like the Ottoman Empire or the previous Persian Empire in the classical sense, but it is a sphere of influence where the client states are armed and used to intimidate and control rival states. We are talking about the facts on the ground. We are talking about a new political reality. We are talking about creating 3 countries out of Syria and 3 countries out of Iraq along sectarian lines. This is a de facto reality already. These states no longer exist. They are 3 spheres of influence already. And these Humpty Dumpty solutions of trying to put these nations back together will only prolong the pain and the suffering, the long and terrible suffering of these human beings who live in the region. Money and resources drive the world economy. We must resume, we the United States of America, must resume our economic and resource dominance that we once had. We must achieve energy dominance by building a perfected form of nuclear energy called MSR and use a mix of 70% nuclear and 30% solar energy, not unlike France. At the same time, we will subsidize the export of 10 million barrels of oil a day or more. We will become the #1 exporter of oil and gas in the entire world. We will add to societal wealth by becoming the world's #1 exporter, and we will deprive our adversaries of wealth and power by permanently driving down the price of these commodities. This will not happen without political change. This will not happen without the 28th Amendment. Change our political system, 1. Change our energy system, 2. Then we change the world geopolitical system in the Middle East specifically, 3. At the current price of oil, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is going to run out of money in 5 or 10 years. They are funding the ideology bent upon destroying the West, destroying the United States of America. This is an Islamic worldwide insurgency funded by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia primarily, using our money. During the Afghan war, the United States Army had to move their supplies through Pakistan and through Afghanistan to our forces for food and ammunition. The Taliban allowed these trucks and trains, trucks primarily, to move across Pakistan and through Afghanistan because we paid $800 or more per truck to the Taliban. In effect, the U.S. taxpayer was funding both sides of the Afghan war. a war that coincidentally seemed to go on forever. Now, the same thing is happening today. The United States consumer is, the Western consumer in the Western world is funding both sides of this war, this Islamic insurgency against the West, and it seems to be going on forever. Now, their madrasas and mosques, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, their madrasas and mosques worldwide funded are indoctrinating moderate Islam, have indoctrinated moderate Islam into an apocalyptic ideology bent upon world domination at any cost. They are teaching small children to hate other religions, to hate Americans, to hate the West, and to hate even other minority Muslims. If you do not cut off the money funding this murder machine, you will lose. You have already lost the Iraq War and the Afghan War. You cannot afford to continue with this losing strategy. Middle East oil represents the largest transfer of wealth from one society to another in human history, and it is being used to drive the Islamic insurgency aimed at the West. When the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia runs out of money, their population probably will revolt on some level, and they will begin bombing their Shia minority populations, much like Assad in Syria is bombing his Sunni populations who were in political revolt. Once we, the United States, the West, have changed our energy system, we will be able to shift suddenly in the Middle East by signing a secret agreement with Iran, agreeing to sell them our weapons technology, and in return, Iran will agree to cease operations against Israel. Looking at the map of the region, we can see the distribution of Shia and Sunni populations. The Ottoman Empire, that was stable for so many hundred years, created multiple states, generally subdivided along the lines of Shia, Sunni, and Kurd. This separation will reduce the chaos and the sectarian conflict. It is better that these new states be small, divided, while regional chaos and war continues unabated. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia could reform itself along the lines of Turkey and along the lines of the secular state created by Ataturk, and they would survive. But human nature being what it is, they will instead wage an Assad Syrian-like campaign until they run out of money and they are overthrown. Iran, in the aftermath, will be charged to protect and maintain the holy shrines and sites for the faithful, whatever the new political reality is. Be it a strawman rule like Egypt and Jordan or some other form, Iran will have de facto control of more oil in the region, but they will have very little money at this new depressed price. And after buying weapons and paying militias, armies, to impose order on their new prize, to exert their influence in the region, in effect, they will be overstretched. The flies will have captured the flypaper. Iran will achieve a fragile regional dominance, but be unable to hold on to it without our weapons technology. We will be their guarantors. They will be too overstretched economically and militarily to seek further power outside of this region. Remember, these are new Shia, Sunni, and Kurdish states that will be under pressure by Shia Iran-funded militias and militaries, much like Hamas and Hezbollah and the Iranian Guard, and If these new Shia, Sunni, or Kurdish states begin conflicts, Iran will suppress the Sunnis extremists externally, but they will also suppress the Sunni extremism internally within these states, using all available means at their disposal, as historically they did within Iraq. The new Sunni states will not control much in the way of oil or water resources. The new Sunni state in Syria will be in the southwestern desert. The new Sunni state in Iraq will be in the northwestern desert. There is not much oil or water in either of these regions. The snake, in effect, will have its fangs removed. Iran must move their oil out of the Gulf and through the Suez, so if they break their agreement, if they attack Israel or otherwise violate their agreement with the West, with the United States, the oil can be stopped from moving through transit very easily at 3 different points on the map with our Navy. It would be child's play to bring them to their knees at will. The Iranians will get what they wanted for 1,400 years, which is why they will accept this agreement. But what will the United States get from this plan? We will become the world's largest exporter of oil and gas and will earn $1 trillion every 3 years. A few years ago, we had $1 trillion trade deficit, but this will change to a trade surplus. We will increase our national wealth. The United States does not need oil from the region, but our allies do, and this will be secured for the time being. The United States and the West will sell Iran tens of billions of dollars in high-tech weapons a year to enable their regional dominance to continue. More wealth. Iran, will be dependent upon us. Politically, perhaps most important of all, Israel will no longer be attacked from all sides by Iranian-funded militias. Iran will be too busy using these new assets to control their new quasi-Ottoman-like reality of Shia, Sunni, and Kurdish satellite nations. Israel will have a free hand to deal with their security issues in the way they see fit. What about the other Sunnis? Egypt and Jordan are strongman rule states, autocracies, dependent upon Western support to remain in power. They will suppress the extremists in their midst as they have always done. The Middle East will remain an unpleasant place to live until they reform along the lines of Turkey when Ataturk created a secular state by force. This will not happen in our lifetimes. The failure of the Arab Spring signals a failure of the popular imagination in this region. It is best to exercise patience in this regard and not to expend too much time and energy, money, idealism, or hope. We cannot transform this region into prosperous and peaceful democratic republics. Islam must resolve the problems of Islam. Finally, there is the matter of justice for 9/11 and for all the victims of this unholy war. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia holds over $100 billion of U.S. government debt. When the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia ceases to exist, when they go broke and are overthrown, the debt itself will cease to exist. The kingdom will no longer be an entity. The 2,000-member royal family will flee the country to Britain, France, Dubai, Turkey, all over the globe, and their personal wealth will be seized by prior agreement. Our allies will keep 20% and give the remainder to the United States as reparations. Purveyors of this ideology will be eliminated in all corners of the globe in a mopping up operation mostly by local governments. The mosques and madrasas all over the world will be run under new management or closed down. The farm system will no longer crank out radical followers. And the ash heap of history, populated by fascism and communism, will have a new ism to keep them company. The Middle East will remain imperfectly peaceful, but improved. The world is a dangerous place, and this will serve as a lesson to those who might contemplate an attack upon the United States or its allies. This plan is the long game that will take 10 or even 20 years, but it does not require one American bomb to be dropped by us, one bullet or one soldier's life to be expended. It will take planning, patience, political will, and determination. In 2026, perhaps, on the 25th anniversary of 9/11, the matter might finally be resolved. Revenge is a dish best served cold. The revenge we seek is peace and justice, and these we shall have.